Yooo Mana Squad, do not skip ahead just yet because we have a super exciting Kickstarter with OMA for Foley Okins. Yes, it is legendary magic artist Phil Folio who has made some amazing and incredibly adorable tokens. There are 36 to kick it off, and just look at these things. These things are, you need these on your battlefield. They're amazing. They're cute. You got some spooky ones. It's a little of everything here. There's even a metal monarch token in there. This stuff looks incredible, so check it out. There's some stretch goals, all types of stuff in here, and if you use the affiliate link down below in the description, you can help support the channel in the process. Yo, welcome back to One More Mana. My name is Derik, and today we are getting into spooky season. I'm so excited that it's finally here. Look, it's spooky season year round for me. I'm always getting into horror TV shows, movies, magic cards. I usually wait till like July before I start talking about it kind of quietly so I don't get dirty looks. And then by the time we get to October, I am full out yelling about it. I don't care about judgment anymore. I need spooky things all around me, and I am so excited to talk about it. And today specifically, I want to talk about vampires, and I'm going to be talking about my 5 favorite vampires throughout Magic's history, and specifically in my vampire commander deck. Now, look, obviously I'm going to be grading on like super technical, intricate criteria, and by that I mean art, flavor text, and a vibe that they send. Because a little behind the scenes of this deck, this is a deck I've been working on for years. Spoiler alert, the number 1 card on this list inspired it. I opened this card in a pack, and I knew that I wanted to have some pile of cards together, and I kind of had to wait for the right commander. So over the years, I've just been picking up some of my favorite vampires or vampire vibey cards that I knew would one day go into this. So the commander for this deck is Edgar Markov, but it's one of the few times someone can actually say it's not that Edgar Markov, because it's literally not the spooky dude sitting behind me. It is Edgar Charmed Groom, which is barely playable, not a very good card, but it's cool. It's a 4-mana lord. You can, when it dies, it turns into a little token pooper, and it has Dracula art. Literally, what else could you want? So this whole deck has just been, again, slowly over the years, if I see a card like Hellfire from Legends, it's like, that is the vibe I want. Bam, I'm picking you up for this pile. Or the Dracula's Tomb Phyrexian Tower of art. That is the stuff I need. Some of those Dracula lands, like slowly over time, just picking these things up. One of the coolest things about building a deck like this, like never really knowing if I was going to play it, you don't care about the playability of the cards. All that matters is the vibes. If you see an art you like or a flavor text that speaks to you, that's what makes you want to pick up cards and add it to this kind of like pile. So like, if I'm sitting down to play this, I don't care how powerful an effect is, but when I cast it, does that art set the vibe for me? Does that flavor text speak to me? Does it make me feel something? Like this is the type of deck that this is. And initially, I wanted to do like a deck tech for it because I was so excited. This deck is finally, after years, in like a playable-ish form. I was like, let's go, like let's do it. But then I realized like that's not what matters. The tech of this deck, the effects, that's not what matters. What matters is what it makes me feel, the vibes it gives off, and that's why I want to talk about my 5 favorite vampires that happen to be in this deck. So, getting into the list, we have 2 honorable mentions because you gotta cheat. If it's a 5-card list, you gotta add extras if you're making the rules. So we need some honorable mentions. So at number 1 honorable mention, we have, look, I actually have the cards for this. This is exciting. It's not just digital. I have cards in front of me. We have Shilgengar, Sire of Famine. So Shilgengar is a card I was really excited about when it got previewed because like vaguely aware of its existence and like getting into the lore and everything. If you're not familiar, Shilgengar is effectively the indirect cause of vampirism in Innistrad. And like Innistrad is like not the most iconic, basically close to the most iconic vampire plane in Magic. And the fact that like he's the cause for it, effectively, to paraphrase and give a short story or long story short, basically he got Eddie Marks to drink some angel blood and bam, vampires popped up. It's a pretty cool story. Yeah, Shogun's awesome, super spooky. The art is incredible, sitting on like a bed of angel wings. And the fact that like this, I don't know, I was like the like initiation of different things. I like to hear the lore about how things start and that kind of like ground zero of where all these things, even in like zombie TV shows and movies, bam, I want to know day zero what happened. And vampires are kind of just a thing, they exist. And so to get this lore about this elder demon being the cause is one of the coolest things ever for me. The effects are cool. Blood tokens help in the deck, but you're not so much worried about that. But having Shilgengar in the deck is just so awesome. And then second honorable mention we're going to talk about, just barely didn't make it. It's going to be the 3 Weird Sisters. The 3 Weird Sisters, which is a Dracula version of Henrika Domnathi. it's just, this is one of the coolest arts ever. It's a flip card, and when it flips, you basically have like the three weird sisters just sitting there chilling. One has a little pup, and then they flip into monstrosities. And that's something as we go through this list that matters so much to me. I don't want the sparkly pretty vampires. That's not what I want. Vampires with some messed up faces. I want nightmare inducing vampires. That's the vibe I'm on. I need it to be like that. And when the three weird sisters flip, not only are they some of the most messed up, terrifying, look, Neil Sam, a legend, probably my favorite Magic artist. I got the token Kickstarter. I'm all about all that. And the monstrosities of these faces, it's just one of my favorite art pieces ever in Magic is the flip version of this, and the little puppy turns into a monster, so that's adorable. But let's get into this real list at number 5. The number 5, my favorite vampire in Magic's history. We're going to talk about Vampire Nocturnus. This Vampire Nocturnus is such a cool card. The art is amazing. This is one that when I saw the art for this, it made me want to actually make a deck out of this. So the initial inspiration, again, number 1, but this is, I think, the second most like influential card in me making a deck out of this, and not it just being a pile of cards I like to look at. Vampire Nocturnus is 1 triple black for a 3/3. You play with the top card of your library revealed, and if it's black, your vampires get +2/+1 and have flying. Look, that's awesome. It's super fun. You can do weird stuff with top deck manipulation or fetch lands if you want. But what I love about it is if you have a big board, it's almost like rolling the dice. If you happen to have a black card on top, bam, you have that overrun. You can kill people. And if not, you got to wait till next turn or hope you get lucky. I love that random chance aspect. It's not just always a bomb. There's going to be other pieces to it that you need to get right. So I love that. But almost more importantly, this flavor text. Your life will set with the sun. That is just bars. It's the best way to put it. It's just so good. So one of my favorite pieces of flavor text, and as we see more, it's kind of a theme to this. At number 4, my 4th favorite vampire in the history. I was about to say this set, the history of Magic. This might be some controversy here. We got Baron Sengir, the OG from Homelands. We got 5 triple black for a 5/5 vampire flying. Basically when creatures dealt damage by a die, it gets a +2/+2 counter, because that's how it was back in the day, and you can tap it to regenerate another target vampire, because it says legend on the card. It is a vampire itself. Look, Baron Sengir is like one of the OG, if not the OG, big baddies in Magic. I feel like it should be higher on this list, but either way, like, the story in Homelands is awesome. Essentially, Baron Sengir was created through some ritual. It's a whole lot. There's a lot to read, but more or less, one of the original, just huge villains in Magic. And I think story-wise, probably the original, because before that, you had stuff like Antiquities that hinted at the Brothers' War and this and that, but you didn't really have a lot of story in Magic. And Homelands was like the first set that really gave a ton of story. And yeah, I get the card's not great, it's overcosted in this, but it is just so iconic in that, like, outside, and we'll get into why that name is so iconic in a second, but giving a story to this Sengir mention that started in alpha to create this huge story behind it and make an iconic villain from it is so cool. And then the flavor text, Beast Defiler, the source of all my pain. Again, just I need that tatted on my forehead. Number three favorite vampire of all time. This is one that I actually discovered somewhat recently, in that I just didn't know it existed, and it's Valaran Pariah. It's 3 black for a 3/3 vampire horror, which is a great creature type, and it flying. You can sacrifice 3 other creatures to transform it, and has madness that you can pay 3. And Valaran Pariah is awesome. Look, it looks cool effect. I love the spooky art. The vampire horror creature type's great. It's in front of a moon, sets every vibe I want. But when you flip it, I've said this a lot, this might be my favorite art in the history of Magic. It is Abolisher of Bloodlines. It's a 6/5 flyer. When it transforms, you get to be petty, which bumps it up on the list, and target opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. But look at the art. This is just, yeah, you know what? I'm going to declare it now favorite art of all time. It's on the spot, bam. And the flavor text, okay, look. Even if the rain turned to blood, her thirst would not be slaked. Like that, you can't. Again, bars. I'm pretty sure Shakespeare wrote that. Like, that's just, it's perfect. It is beautiful. Yeah, that card, I'm going to stare at it when this video's done. I love it so much. Number 2, my number 2 favorite vampire of all time, the OG. And it's kind of crazy. This isn't number 1. Sengir Vampire. Sengir Vampire, it was an alpha. It is so iconic. The fact that from the start, and we'll talk more about it. If you're not familiar with Sengir Vampire, it's a simple card. 3 black for a 4/4 flyer. And then whenever it's a creature dealt by Sengir Vampire, it's put in the graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Kind of plays when Baron Sengir was created, it played on this whole effect. But the thing that I love so much we're gonna go on a side story. One of my close friends growing up, shout out to Jason if you're watching this. One of his favorite lines ever in a song was a 2 Chainz song, something about when we had sex it was in a Mercedes, and I ain't crazy, but if that's my baby, then we're gonna have to name that little baby Mercedes. And every time that song came on, he would say, listen to what the man said though. And listen to what the card said though, because empires rise and fall, but evil is eternal. And the fact that this was an alpha, the first set ever, and evil is eternal, and we keep seeing in Mystery Booster 2, there was just a new printing of Sengir Vampire. It is eternal. It is forever here. And I don't care what the effect is. If you're building a vampire deck, this just has to be in it. Oh my God, it's just got the old border foil. It's perfect. Okay. Number one, the number one card and the inspiration for this deck is going to be Bloodline Keeper. And this is the only card on this list that doesn't have cool flavor text. But the reason is the story for me is more important. Back in like 2019, me and a group of friends got to draft OG Innistrad. And if y'all know anything about me, that's my favorite set. OG Innistrad is my favorite set of all time. And I got into Magic well after that set released, and I never thought I'd be able to draft it. We got a group of people together, went in, bought a box, and got to have a full paper Innistrad draft in 2019. And in my first pack, I had Bloodline Keeper as my flip card. And since then, like, I did terrible in the draft, forced into a deck it didn't fit into. It didn't matter. Randomly, I will look at this card because it just makes me happy. It is one of my like most prized Magic possessions. I love this thing, and I opened it in a pack. It makes it that much cooler. And yeah, after I opened it, I was like, I need to build a deck around this at some point. I need more of this in my life. And that's what led kind of this journey to this deck existing. I didn't even talk about what the card does. Not as important, but it's a 2 and 2 black, 3/3, tap it to make vamps, transform it, make your vamps bigger. It's amazing. I love also the transformation of like a regular, slightly pretty looking vamp to looking what its true form is, like the monstrosity it really is. Gets more into like the old vampire lore of what they're supposed to look like. It is perfect. Yeah, I love this deck. So thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments below, how do y'all feel? Do you have any vampires? Are there any vampires I've missed that should be on this list? Flavor text art, what is it that really speaks to you? Do you have a creature type that speaks to you like this, where you kind of just collect the cards, even if you don't play them, just to have that art and flavor text and just make you happy just to look at? But yeah, let me know in the comments below. If you see me in Vegas, find me. I will have this deck on me. Let's get some spooky stuff going. Cannot wait. Until then, stay petty. Yo, Mana Squad, if you like any of the cards you see in today's video, make sure to hit up the affiliate link down below to TCG Player. You can help look up some of your local game stores in the process and help show the channel some love. And you know you got to look good while you play in order to play good. So make sure you hit up our link to Into the AM as well. We have the discount code down in the description below. Look, you got to listen to Kenneth the Heathen. He always says something about dripping in space and screaming. We don't know what it means, but do what the man says. And last but not least, hit up Heavy Play. Heavy Play is going to have some of the nicest playmats and deck boxes out there. Their magnet system between their deck box and dice trays and playmat is amazing, especially if you're playing at like bars, restaurants, stuff like that. You got to get up and move. There is no better way to keep all your stuff together, and you can show the channel some love in the process. Stay petty.